All right, Mr. Kenobi, are you ready to finally have our Merfolk versus Dredge match?
Absolutely. Dredge is not my favorite deck in the format, but I'm happy to put this issue to bed. Is your fish deck ready to do battle?
They were born ready.
You on the die roll, so play or draw?
I'll be on the play, island, Grafdigger's Cage.
Wait. Merfolk doesn't play Grafdigger's Cage main deck.
My list does.
Your list?
My list against Dredge.
Wait a minute. Let me see your deck. Rest in peace. Ground Seal. 4 copies of Surgical Extraction.
That card's really good against Phoenix matchups as well.
Scavenging Ooze isn't even a fish.
But it is slimy.
You're slimy. You can't build a deck to metagame against Dredge to win an argument. That's not fair.
But isn't that how arguments are won?
No, if you want to have this matchup and resolve this, you have to pick a deck that is doing well in the current metagame off of MTG Goldfish. Right, this is a real Merfolk list that you've taken off of Goldfish.
Card for card.
Right, let's play.
Fantastic. Any pregame effects?
Pre-game effects.
Well, I'm going to put a Leyline of the Void into play.
Oh, you found a mono-blue Merfolk deck that's currently playing Leyline of the Void in its main deck. Is this left over from the Hogak days of Modern?
No, this is a list that 5-0'd just last night. You see, I called up Nikachu, and I asked him to 5-0 a couple leagues with a Merfolk list that runs Leyline Mayboard.
Fine. This is the world we live in. Okay, fine, whatever. Forest, Simian Spirit Guide, Choke.
What Dredge list is that from?
Oh, it's the one I asked Erin Campbell to 5-0 with an MTGO. So you've managed to fit 2 Plague Engineers in there, Erin. But what about Phyrexian Obliterator?
Okay, Nikachu, so what I need from you next is to design and 5-0 leagues with a Merfolk deck that has mainboard answers to Choke, Boil, and Engineered Plague.
You
He's
don't
also
think that
adapted
Nick
to
Boss would work
Leyline
either?
Mainboard,
Okay,
so we
that's
need
fair
some
enough.
kind
Fair
of
enough. We do
counter
need to
effect
keep some
to
of the
that. Are
Dredge
we
cards
running
in the deck,
counters?
but I really want to make sure that I beat Merfolk in this matchup.
I don't even know that he's
Can't let
running
him
Dredge
win,
cards anymore
smug,
at this
arrogant
point, but we
bastard.
definitely have... I've been thinking a lot about Modern lately, and I'm really happy to have you here with me, Vince. You know why?
Because I like Modern too.
You like Modern too. And I know a lot of people in this community who are really good at Modern. I know a lot of people who have great tournament results in Modern, who play Modern very well, play Modern very regularly. That's not you. You are someone who really loves Modern.
Yeah.
Inside and out. And you're someone we can get geeky with about Modern.
Sure.
And you actually do, joking aside, honestly, really know your stuff. And that I know you do. You really know your stuff.
No, I appreciate
because
that. Well, I play a lot of Magic. That helps.
You do play a lot. It does help. It does help. Whenever you're not busy making content about Magic, which takes up a bit of your time.
Yeah,
I know you're also playing Magic, and most of that time it's playing Modern. So let's talk about Modern.
Sure.
You said to me yesterday that you think Modern might be in one of the best states it's ever been in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Renin 6 is running wild. Can you explain that to me?
Renin 6 is actually running wild Legacy.
Right.
So it just seems
not
like...
in Modern. It's not running wild.
It's playable in Modern. I think the Jund deck is playing like probably 4 copies, I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought, right.
But it's not running wild. Like, I think both Jund, Tron, and like Burn are putting up similar numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a trifecta of like, okay, they're the best decks, but it's kind of an okay place to be. I've seen people comparing it to the Twin days, like when Twin used to be legal.
That's a good thing, because one of the things I always said about Twin, I was always in the camp, and again, I mean, you're really more of an expert on this than I am, but yeah. I've always in the camp of like, it's nice to have like the Peacekeeper deck. And I thought Twin was a good Peacekeeper deck.
Yeah.
That is why it showed up in top 8s, but it kept things in check. So you're saying maybe Jund is now the Peacekeeper deck? That's fun too.
I can't remember what tournament it was. It might have been one of the SCG things, but like people were showing the percentages, and Burn, Tron, and Jund were the top decks. And like maybe Blue-White Control was the second one down, fourth one down. Blue-White's weird though, because you've got like the Control deck, and then you've got Stoneforge. But I don't know if many people are playing. Stoneforge just turned out to just not be much of an issue or problem, or even that well played.
And the same thing happened when they unbanned Jace.
Yeah, but I mean, I was saying this for years with Stoneforge Mystic. It's a good card, but I don't know if it's good enough.
Right.
Weird, isn't it? How it can be so good in Legacy and then...
There's a couple ways that people are running Stoneforge in Modern, though, which is nice, right? Aren't they?
Well, I think everyone's tried every combination under the sun now, right? And the only places, I think it's stuck is like Green White Eldrazi seems to be very popular, which basically feels like a Death and Taxes deck with less taxes, shall we say? And then like Blue-White Stoneblade, which is basically using Stoneforge as a finisher. But again, I mean, don't quote me, I have to check numbers and stuff. But I think Blue-White Control just is good enough to play without Stoneforge. That's kind of like a, how do you want to finish your game? Do you want to do Colonnades? Do you want a couple of Mentors? Do you want Mentors plus some Stoneforges? It's like that sort of thing. It's like
Right.
choose your own adventure book, and ultimately Stoneforge is just one of a few ways you can close out games, right? Like, but people are trying everything.
Yeah.
And the most success I had with it was with Arbiter, which is weird because I said before it got unbanned, I said that deck would be terrible, and that's a non-bow. And then weirdly, that's the only Stoneforge deck I've been able to go like 4-1 with or whatever. It's
Right.
playing with cards that it's bad with. But yeah, it's a good card. It's just like,
I've been thinking about building Jund. Is Jund considered a fair deck?
traditionally it's the fairest, right?
Now
I
it's a
don't know,
little
I
less
find-
fair.
Red and 6
What
just
makes
winds me
let's
up.
start with what makes fair? What do we mean when we say fair?
This is a big thought exercise and like articles and whole videos, I reckon.
Right.
I think fair is like playing Magic as Richard Garfield intended. Like I'm gonna play threats, I'm gonna play interaction. Sometimes I lean towards interacting more because I'm control. Sometimes I lean towards threats more because I'm mid-range. And that's fair, right? And then you have a second subcategory, in my opinion. People might disagree with this, but there are fair decks that force other people to play fair. So it's like Thalias and Chalices of the Void and stuff like that. But they can err on unfair when you prison someone out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then unfair is all the nonsense. Like, I'm going
Right.
to cast 1,000 spells in a turn. I'm going to decrease the cost of my spells. I'm going to make more mana than you.
Looking to find, I would say that unfair is looking for ways to get around the built-in tempo or restrictions of the game.
That's a very fair assessment.
Right. So when I find ways to, I'm going to generate more mana than 3 lands should produce. When I find ways to, I'm going to get more effects from this spell. Like the very definition of storm is unfair.
Yeah.
The number of times that there have been spells cast, you get to recast it, but normally a spell you cast it once, and so here I'm getting the effect multiple times.
Well,
and so
it's exactly that. The reason you refer to like reanimating stuff as cheating it in, right? Sneak and
Right.
show and tell.
right, cheating it in. We say,
cheating it
were
in.
you cheating it in?
And
which
that's
is
because you're breaking the rules of Magic.
Right.
And Grizzlebrand shouldn't be in play before turn 8.
Right.
But there we go.
right. So Jund is traditionally one of the more fair decks.
It can feel unfair.
Right.
But that's not how we qualify. What's fair and what's
Right.
not.
It's not doing any of those shenanigans. There's no delve. There's no
I
reanimation.
think there was a time when people played Taskers and Go-Mags, but like that was when they were like the new hot stuff, right?
Sure.
I still think Tasker could have a place. The problem is if you play Bob. That's the thing about Jund is that there's customizable flex slots. There's a lot of discussion around what your 5 like flex slots are. But if you're playing Bob, you don't want to play Tassiger.
Right.
But if you're playing Tyrus Tracker, you can afford to play 1 Tassiger if you want to.
Right.
But then, I don't know. Maybe I've got a soft spot for Tassiger and playing suboptimal cards. So maybe I'm the best person to ask about Jund deck, which is trying to be the most optimal deck possible, right?
So why is it the best that the format's ever been then? So what makes it?
Why is that?
Yeah,
I guess we've come out of quite a few busted times, right? Like Hogak was a period.
That was not that long ago. Hogak was days ago. Literally, it feels like.
Yeah.
When was it banned? It was. It
was banned at the same time Stoneforge was unbanned. So it was the Monday after GP Vegas. So we're talking. I think it's actually been almost 3 weeks now.
That's days. I mean, that's like, days. And during Hogak, you were telling me just in our casual conversations, Modern's in trouble. So to go from in trouble to better than it's ever been with just the banning of Hogak, it makes me wonder if Modern Horizons had just simply magically not had Hogak, that it would have come in and ushered in a golden era in Modern. I would have had to eat my words because I was against Modern Horizons in many ways, and it would have been like, no, Modern Horizons, was that what did it though?
I've just checked just to make sure that I'm not waffling. Yeah, in this order on Goldfish, for example, I mean these percentages are really high, unusually high for normal. But Burn 16%, Jund 14%, Tron 13%. So maybe Modern's not as diverse as it once was. Weirdly, 4-color words are 12%, Blue White Stoneblade 10%. Then there's Eldrazi, Tron, Grixis, Death Shadow. They're all going down there. Titan Shift, Dredge, Humans, Hardened Scales, Amulet Titan. Feels diverse, right? There's another blue white down there.
That's fairly diverse, actually.
Yeah, I think
if I want to take an aggro strategy, I can take aggro strategy. If I want to do Dredge, I can do Dredge. But Dredge isn't out of control like it once was.
Yeah, if you add blue white control into the Stoneblade thing, they play differently. And that would be one of the bigger decks again because they were separated out. One at 9 and one at 4, like I was saying. So yeah, wow, I remember numbers well. I'm normally really bad with numbers. But yeah, like I don't know what it is. Like I guess there's a lot of new toys, right? And like Jund for the longest time was never any good. And then Ren in 6 is just pushed up. So it's not, Ren in 6 isn't dominating like it's doing Legacy, but Ren in 6 is allowing Jund to perform again because it's giving it a really good, efficient 2-drop that doesn't stifle deck building like Bob does, can remove X1s, can consistently fix your mana base, and all this jazz. Like, weird. I think as well, again, I'll have to double check stuff, but I think Jund's playing less lands than it used to do because Ren in 6 just says, well, okay, you're going to hit your land drops anyway because you've got a fetch in the bin, we can get it back, and back, and back, and back. And there's a time when Jund was out on 26 lands, it doesn't have to be, which makes the deck better because you have more gas. Why is Jund, why is modern Mortarverse? Must be it.
The banning of faithless looting?
I think Faithless Looting is probably helping. Like, well, that's the reason, right? Like, that's why Hogak is real dead, other than Hogak being gone. But like, no weird no Vengevine equivalent showed up afterwards.
Dredge was out of control.
Yeah. So you had two variants. You had Dredge and you had Hogak, and both of them were bad.
Even before Hogak, Dredge was a powerhouse.
Yeah, like Dredge always bugged me for years. Like, do you remember when Troll came off the ban list and went back on?
Right.
I was for that period. I was like, I don't think Troll was the problem. Like, you're going from Dredge 6 to Dredge 5 and give them like less of a late game, but Conflagrate was always the card that really bugged me because it made all the creature decks really bad to play.
Right.
It's a real feel bad when your opponent just like ditches 7 cards to Conflagrate, which isn't actually a downside for them after loaming, and just raff your board, and you're like, well, that doesn't seem fair. But nothing about Dredge seems fair. But Bridge is gone now, which is, and then like no Faithless Looting. So new cards in Eldraine though. We've got that 2 mana thing that's like it's literally Tormenting Voice instant speed.
Right.
So that's
is that going to be enough from Eldraine to push any of that in?
So
hope not. I hope not.
I hope not too. But it's just funny to see a card that already exists be put in, which is a good card that sees play with Tormenting Voice.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, here's an instant speed one. I'm like, huh. So like that's just talk about power creep in an episode of Dice Removal that'll be out at some point, right?
Yes.
That's literal power creep. It's the same card but instant speed.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can counter it with Dispel, so it's not strictly better.
Yeah. But it's pretty close.
Yeah, but when you see those things, it always baffles my mind. I'm like, that's it. There's no reason to play Tormenting Voice anymore, unless you want 8 copies of the effect.
Right.
But whether it's good enough to replace Faithless Looting, probably not. Let's be honest. Yeah, Modern's wild.
It is. Why is it just the financial cost that you think keeps people away from the format?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like people just get really tilted out and frustrated about this stuff, right? And
I think it's fair. Like, okay, so I just so happen to have a lot of the most expensive components of Jund. I have Liliana's from when I played Original Innistrad. I have some, I think I've got Tarmogoyfs from...
So what's making you want to build Jund then?
I like fair decks. I like Magic as Garfield intended. I mean, is Merfolk a fair deck? It's a tribal deck. We're getting
Vile's weird because
Vile is the unfair part.
Yeah, because it lets you cheat on tempo, it lets you cheat on mana,
right?
Lets you cheat on timing restrictions.
Right.
There's a lot of
arguments.
It's a more
fair
Vile.
Deck.
It's fair, but it's less fair than the player creature, player thing. What it should be.
I like fair decks. I like getting a little bit of variety in what I can do, which I think Jund offers. So I don't like straight up like, let's say goblins. Goblins, you just drop those suckers on the ground.
Not anymore. Not
anymore.
Like, no, you're right. Like for the longest time, modern goblins were just 8-whack, right? Like you just play things that pop the front end and swing. And then we got Ringleader. Then we got Ringleader. Then we got Matron. I got Grumgullies as combo alternatives and stuff, and now you can play like mid-range strategies, toolbox strategies, go get your Krenko, sometimes go get like a Kikijiki and stuff. So it probably might be the best build is still aggro, but you can still build it. It's nice that archive's been opened up. It's not so nice that it's just not as good as the other stuff that Modern Horizons brought, right?
Right. That's true.
That's the weird thing about Magic
That's
sets.
true. I am really looking forward to see if the Grumgully really that deck is going to be. Are you doing a tech on it?
I'm going to do a gameplay of the combo goblins again with Grumgully. I imagine like Jim Davis is he's a big goblins fan. He'll probably be playing on his channel. And stuff
you should just do a straight up tech in addition to that, where you literally just say, "Here's the deck."
That might be something I need to start doing with my content in general. It's just doing deck techs alongside it because it's just like tying them together. It's kind of like free real estate, right?
Yeah. Well, it's also just nice to have like gameplay. Some people favor gameplay. I get people asking me a lot, like, will you show some gameplay of these decks? And then I get, I would imagine people are like, can you just like say the deck has this, it functions like this is its goal. These are the main synergies, strategies. Do this if this happens. There's your instruction manual.
I mean, I know you've seen a few of my big gameplay videos. That's how my big gameplay videos start. They always start with like. On occasion, I joke and go, I don't want to do a deck tech here because the deck's really straightforward. Let me show you.
Right.
Sometimes it's easier just to show a deck in action. But other times it's better to discuss card choices, why you pick this, why you pick that, what the toolbox is, and all that sort of
Right,
stuff, you know?
right. A lot of people are worried about Wurza, though. Do you think Wurza is something to be
I,
worried
I
about?
so I was worried too. Let me
Yeah.
adjust before I talk.
Mm,
There we go. I don't want to make all the crankling noises.
yeah. Careful with that crankle.
Or is that?
Wurza is Wurza, because I started hearing like Wurza's the boogeyman, and then we're getting Emery in Wurza.
I think Emery might be a problem in combination with some other
Right.
stuff. But like, it looks like the reason that Wurza might not be the dominating force that everyone thought it would be, including myself, I was scared that once Hogak went, it's like, oh no, what's hiding behind him, right?
Right.
But like Jund might just, I don't know, I haven't played Jund versus Wurza, I haven't played the matchup myself yet, but Jund might just beat it up. Like traditional, like, look at your hand, take a thing, kill your thing, play a dude, and then start ripping you apart might just be good enough. So it might be that the deck is very, very good, but it might just fold to other strategies that I've played. So, but Emery, it's funny because
She's rough. She's rough.
She seems crazy good. I wouldn't be surprised if she sees playing like every format, like vintage, standard, modern. Like she's absurd. I didn't realize I was watching Ben Wheeler play some standard with her, and he played a Witch's Oven. He's playing like a silly food deck with eggs and stuff in it. So I saw his hand had 2 lands and Emery. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird. Plays his Witch's Oven for 1, and suddenly Emery is 2. I'm like, of course, she has the cost reduction. So you make food tokens, you make clue tokens, any of these things.
Right.
Reduce a cost. So
you're not making food tokens in Modern.
That sounds like a video that I'd make. There probably will be. I will probably end up making a food video.
Right.
The deck will be terrible. I'll probably
Stuff your face.
Yeah.
None of those food tokens are milk, so I don't know why you're making them.
I could put one of the edited art files in, so they're milk and stuff. But like Europe at Aether Grid's a fun card, so just make a lot of food.
Sure.
And I'm just pinging people with food and stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, let's say Jund just continues to be like not just the gatekeeper of the format like Splinter Twin used to be. Let's say it gets a little bit, it just happens to be a little bit better. Let's say they reprint Ren and 6 soon.
They have to.
Soon. Let's say they reprint it soon, and in a way like where we get a lot of it. So suddenly price comes down. Let's say fetch lands get their reprint like we're thinking in Return to Zendikar. Let's say that these factors go in basically to make it more affordable, because Jund's expensive right now.
Yeah.
Jund's expensive. But let's say Jund gets a little bit more affordable, and so it not only gatekeeps the format, but it also kind of takes over just a little bit. I wonder if people won't care that Jund is out of control in Modern, because it's Jund and it's a fair deck, and it's just very different. When you look at Modern and Dredge is out of control, or Eldrazi is out of control, or Hogak is out of control, you go, this is baloney. But if you look at Modern and it's like, what's everyone playing in Modern? Jund. All right.
It's not. I completely agree.
All right.
Because like part of banning discussions are normally around how bad you feel playing against stuff, right? Like 2 and 3 cards,
right,
and stuff like that. So people never really like shout about banning Goyf or Liliana.
Right.
But the other thing is, like, I think Jund is the only fair deck that might draw some ire, because people get annoyed at how expensive it is. It feels very
right. That's why I added my qualifiers. We got to get it cheap. It's one of the few Modern decks where the cost isn't just in the mana base.
Yeah, like Liliana was the most expensive card in Modern, barring lands, for a long time. I think Ren and 6 is the same price or dearer now. And when you're looking at like that's like what, between 7 and 8 cards, maybe 6 and 8 cards, depending on what your Liliana split is. That's crazy.
Glyph's still up there too, and Glyph's in the $50-$60 range. So Tarmogoyf is at $50. So playset, we run full 4 in Jund, so that's $200. That's something, you know.
It's not nothing, is it?
It's not nothing.
$200 for 4 creatures is still pretty absurd.
What's sad is it's not as bad as Ren and 6 or Liliana. What's sad is it's not as bad as some of the fetch lands.
And stuff.
Right. Verdant Catacombs are $80 each, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And so there you go.
Then you got to start falling it, right? Because you're not allowed to have Jund unless it's the most expensive version.
Right.
It's part of the Jund rules. When you join Jund and you become a card carrying Jund member,
right?
They're like, well, the deck's not expensive enough. Keep going.
Right.
That's a joke I made when Ren and 6 came out. I was like, yeah, of course Jund's playing Ren and 6 because it's expensive. Like, that's not because it's good. It's because it's expensive. Because Jund players are like, is this card expensive to get hold of? Yes, let's try it. So,
right.
But
Jund players regret that they don't have the artist who did the alternate art, Liliana from War of the Spark. They regret that they don't have a special commission of him doing Liliana of the Veil in that anime style, manga style. But I wonder if it's possible. Do you remember the Modern event deck?
Yeah, the Black White Tokens deck.
Black White Tokens. It was a bit of a bummer. I liked it. You can.
Didn't it have any marsh flats? Did it? It had.
No, it didn't have
Well, I
marsh
don't know because don't
flats.
forget they did put Windswept Heath in the standard event deck at one point, right?
Right.
So it all you think, did they do it? No, because it had isolated chapels and did it have any shocklands?
I can't remember on the Shocklands. It did have the isolated chapels.
Which were in standard at the time as well, I think.
What ended up being the most chased thing in it, ironically, so it came out. They wanted $80.
Can I guess? Oh, go on.
Okay.
First, I want to guess the card.
It was they wanted $80 for it, and nobody was buying it. Nobody, because black white tokens wasn't even on the meta at that point, and this was a watered down black white tokens. It had an Elspeth in it, and it wasn't even the one that really is. It was Elspeth Tyrell. It
No, it had a Knight Errant in it, I think.
Oh yeah, it had Knight Errant. Okay, it did have Knight Errant, but still, it was just like they wanted $80 for this thing, and it's like this is not being played in Modern, and nobody was buying it, and so it was for sale at one point. When I did my review on it for $40, like at your local game store, which is I think what they paid for it, or so they were just like, get it out of here. And so I did my review video and I said the deck is a disaster, but $40 is a freaking good bargain for all the lands that are in here and for things like it had a sword.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to guess. Sword of Feast and Famine was in the sideboard, which I think is like a $40 card now, and it had copies of Inquisition. Did it have a playset?
That was the thing. It had a playset of
crazy.
Inquisition, and this was before Inquisition's reprint in Battle Bond. Conspiracy.
It was in.
2?
It was
Conspiracy
in one of them.
2.
Yeah, Conspiracy 2. That was it.
Conspiracy 2. Prior to that, Inquisition was up to like, wasn't it? How Inquisition was
20,
$30 for an uncommon.
Silly, yeah.
So it had a playset of them, and suddenly, like, it was like, and people had forgotten about the Modern event deck because it was a very forgettable product, and this was now like a couple of years later, right? And then it's like, wow, Inquisition is how high? And then someone goes, wasn't there a playset of that in the Modern event deck? And then someone's like, those are like $40 on my local game store shelf. Those are $40 on Amazon. Those are $40 on eBay. Buy them. And then it's like, this thing's a jackpot. That's one of the examples of where a bad product can go really good in my book. I think that's a fun example of this product was a disaster, but to get it for $40 instead of 80 ends up with good value, and then it's fun later on where it's like, it's still on the shelves at 40.
Do you know what the irony is? Is that Black White's token's best matchup in all of Modern is Jund.
Really?
Yeah, because Jund decks can't beat you making like 2 or 3 creatures from one card. Because Jund's game plan is just trade 1 for 1, and then when we get down to top decking, my lands are creatures, my cards are powerful, Tarmogoyfs and Lilianas and stuff, and I will beat you on a 1-to-1 basis. And then tokens is like, well, actually, this card makes 4 tokens over 2 turns. This one makes 3 straight away, and then I just play a crappy anthem, and you're dead.
It'll be really
it's
funny.
literally the best matchup that it has in the format against Jund. So there's an irony there. We're talking about how great Jund is, and then we're talking about how bad Black White tokens is, how no one plays it. But Jund players, when they see someone make several Lingering Souls tokens, are like, oh no, what do I do?
That would be so funny if like Black White tokens returns to the meta, and it ends up becoming one of the, because it's the Jund is so prominent, Black White tokens becomes a great deck in the format, and that the list that is run is strikingly similar to the Modern event deck, only it'll be $1,300 by then because of pricing, and then everyone's like, this is like 80% of what was the Modern event deck.
This feels like a good video for me to make.
Yeah.
Like, here's the Modern event deck from 15 years ago.
That would actually, we should try that.
Yeah.
Load it up, load up Modern event deck and see how it does.
It's before was go back to old standard decks.
Right.
And just be like, this standard deck was like dominant, you know, like Cold Blade, for example. Let's just put it through a Modern League and see where we get to. And like that could do it, the 4-color fights decks. Depending on meta game, you won't just randomly have very good matchups, you know? So that's one of them, the event deck, right? Just picking old like precons.
There was a fantastic, I think a person went 4-1 in a legacy league with a Pauper Elves.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
That reminds
me. They might have changed one card.
No, that reminds me. There was this might be the same case or something. Yeah. Some guy rocks up and thinks it's a Modern event and brings Jund and it's legacy.
Right.
And he signs up and he wins. This might be something in a GP because
that's different. It was in the Pauper. They basically they took Pauper. Pauper Elves is pretty hot. Pauper Elves has got a lot of legacy cards in it. I think they might have upgraded the mana base.
Gaia's Cradle probably.
Yeah. I think they took the legacy Elves mana base, but they literally took the Pauper Elves. I think they were doing it to see if they could do it.
What's the
And
Pauper
they
Elves win condition? How do they kill with it?
Pauper Elves has Timber Watch that
Tap it,
tap,
yeah.
and it gives +X+0, where X is the number of elves you have in play.
And just hit them with a big.
Sure. It also runs things like Vanguard, which can get up there. It's got just like you get those
But even
Well-Wishers
the
going, you get
addition
like
of like
800
one
life.
hoof is good enough to make Pauper Elves like.
Oh, sure.
absurd.
Yeah, so that's fun stuff. Do you think they could do a modern event deck again?
They can do whatever they want. These cards don't cost them anything. That's the funny thing. That's the
Right.
funny thing about Magic in general. Like we always go, oh, do you reckon they'll do this? And like, they really could if they wanted to. But I think a modern event deck would be good if they think they could mine modern. And I think perhaps it'd be a good lead-up product if they're going to print another modern Masters. It's like Masters is back 3 or 6 months before they're like, or afterwards even. Here's the event deck. Because they can also do it where they just miss out some obvious reprints. And everyone's like, where's Stoneforge missed it? I'm like, aha, it's here again, you know? So I think they could. I think they would if they were trying to mine modern for some money. And that's not something I can't imagine them not doing next year.
I just think about things like what's Ren and 6 is how much now? American?
$100, I'm assuming.
Just think about the
80,
modern
90,
event deck.
$100.
The modern event deck was $80, and just imagine it's that one Ren and 6 is more than the. It's like, how could you do? I almost said to you, okay, so let's do Jund as a modern event deck, and it's like, so we'll have one Lily, and I started saying in my mind and I was like, one Liliana, one Tarmogoyf, one Ren and 6, and it's like $80. This is the problem.
They should like Jund would be a great deck to do that with because, like I said, someone won a legacy event with it at some point, or at least the legend goes. Because at the time, I think was this when Death Watch Charm was still legal in modern. The cards there was only like 8 cards that weren't played in the modern version compared to the legacy version, which is basically Punishing Fire because the Punishing Fire combo is legal in legacy and not legal in modern. So the decks were literally like exactly the same, right? So Jund is a good one to do that with because the cards translate very well across to a tier 2, sure, but a tier 2 legacy deck, right? Barring some jewels. So it'd be a good event deck for that reason. If you buy black-white tokens, you're never converting that across to black-white tokens in legacy because that's just not a thing. So Jund would be a good choice for that.
Yeah.
Actually, Death and Taxes would be the real.
But how would it look and how much would it cost? You can't do how could you do a Jund event deck?
You can't. Not if they care about the secondary market, not crashing the price on all these cards. And it might upset a lot of Jund players. I think Death and Taxes or something would be a better deck to do, another deck, and B, again, you can swap over to Legacy when you change like 8 of the cards in the mana base and a few other creatures and stuff.
Storm would be a good deck to do because Storm, you could put Storm together now for $80.
Storm is actually doable with reprints.
Yeah.
D&T is doable with reprints if you ignore Aether Vial.
There's budget Storm.
Stoneforge.
There's budget Storm lists now that you could do, I think, for $80 to $100, and there's full Storm, like full on Storm for like $200, which they could totally do a $200
I was going
deck
to say, like,
as an $80.
even the fully fledged version doesn't play fetch lands.
Yeah,
or
that's
there's a big argument not to play fetch lands.
Right, and which is why. And but the only problem is you don't want Storm as the event deck. You don't want someone who isn't in Modern that's like okay, so Commander precons. I want to play Commander. I don't have a Commander deck. I can't afford to build one from scratch. I wish I could just go to the store, buy a deck, sit down and play Commander for the first time with my friends. No problem. Come on in. Get your Dredge, get your whatever, get your Edgar Markov.
Yeah.
This is great. Have fun. You'll totally be able to put up a fight with Breya against your friends. Absolutely, you can upgrade. And then so it's like, great. So now take that same player and replace the word Commander with Modern. And it's like, great, here's Storm.
But you just named Edgar Markov. He was one of the precons, and he's one.
That's
of the
what I mean. Like that.
Well,
works.
that's what I'm saying. But he's an obnoxious commander.
Yeah.
Like,
but no, I just mean Storm isn't. I wouldn't want to introduce someone to Modern on Storm.
No, but the irony of what you just said was that you named 3 of the more obnoxious commanders, right?
I intentionally did that.
Okay, exactly. So they've done that in Commander Back, but I guess the staples and the deck aren't the same and stuff.
What I mean is that I could take the Edgar Markov precon and give it to someone who plays Magic, plays Standard every Friday, never played Commander. Give them Edgar Markov and say, sit down with me and Vincent, let's get a game, and they'd be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can take someone who's played Standard, never played Modern, and I say, all right, here's Storm, go on in and have at it. Like, they'd be like, wait, what am I doing?
Oh, I thought you were going down the route of people hate Storm. You don't want to. I know what you're saying now.
It's
I get
not
it.
a self. It's like
you're saying it's complicated deck. It's complicated deck.
To run.
I thought you were going down the route of let's not turn a lot of people into Storm players because Storm players suck.
I actually like, given that Storm can be put together for $80.
Do you know what my first Modern deck was?
I'm in favor of it.
Do you know what my first Modern deck was?
Storm.
Yeah, Storm. Was my
I
first.
didn't know that, but I guessed it just now based on
context clues. Yeah,
context clues.
I was like, I'm going to read all this cheap and stuff. The deck's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So I had.
Did you like playing it? I've never really piloted Storm, except once I borrowed it from a friend for an event, and I did not do well with it.
I
But I've never
thought I was
regularly
enjoying it until I
piloted.
started like playing its other decks in the format and getting Inquisition into Thoughtseized and hit with the Goyf a couple of times. I was like, wow, looks like my Jund matchup isn't as good as I thought it was. And then someone played a Thalian, and I was like, oh god, I've got to play around this and stuff.
Right.
And then they put in Treasure Cruise, and I just changed over to Delver, and I started having loads of fun. So that's always funny, isn't it? You build your first deck, and they print something that's makes you move slightly to a different version. That's really gross, but. So I think, yeah, you're right about like Jund being a good introduction in an event deck because it's the fundamentals of playing mid-range and Magic is very similar to Standard. And I guess D&T to an extent as well. So there's certain decks you'd pick. And Storm wouldn't be one of them.
I know, you know what I'm going to say. I actually think a great first deck is Merfolk. Merfolk you can make into an event deck for $80.
Yeah, but then you're cutting the Aether Vials again, right? If I talk
One
about
Aether Vial. One Aether Vial.
But Aether Vial is one of the worst cards ever in the world to play in Singular. You don't want one Aether Vial. It's all or nothing. I know I get where you're going with that, and then Merfolk is good, but as long as you respect the secondary market, the Aether Vial is the thing that stops you playing those decks out.
I used to play Merfolk without Aether Vials and without Curse Catchers, and I did just fine until I could afford them. When I was a lad, still green in my youth, before I even had a YouTube channel, I looked at Merfolk and I said, the only expensive cards in here are Curse Catcher and Aether Vial. And I said, the rest of the deck I can buy for $40 at the time. Like Lord of Atlantis is worth $5 then. And I bought the rest of the deck. I went in and played. And then you know what I did? I saved up my money and I got an Aether Vial. And I put it in. And then I saved up my money. I got a second Aether Vial and I put it in. And then I was doing okay. And then I saved up my money. I got 2 Curse Catchers and I threw them in. And so what you do is you put 1 Aether Vial in and you put a little note in there that says, trade some cards for another Aether Vial and put that in fast. You just literally, Wizards writes that on a note. They say, instructions, trade some cards from your folder, bunch of cards from your folder with someone for an Aether Vial, and then put that in here fast.
When was the last time Wizards even mentioned trading in any of their official stuff?
When was the last time Wizards mentioned paper? But
I mean, the problem you'd have with Merfolk being the event deck is that the community wouldn't like it.
No, well,
I think there'd be a lot of outlash about like, oh, stupid Merfolk.
Can you imagine the reveal? I want you to just picture them seriously doing the
Yeah,
reveal.
because they're going to get you to do it.
Modern event.
No, they'd send it out to you. They'd be like, Prof, tell them.
Modern event decks, and they reveal it. Storm, Merfolk, black-white tokens. Storm, Merfolk, goblins.
Right, you receive an email tomorrow, and Wizards are like, Prof, we're doing a Merfolk event deck, and we'd like you to preview it.
Okay. Storm is a budget deck. Merfolk is budget, but it's pretty bad right now. It's okay, but it's not. It's pretty bad even for Merfolk right now. There were some moments there. Dredge is cheap. Oh my god. Modern event decks.
Storm, Dredge,
Merfolk. Merfolk, Asterix, no Aether Vials. Aether Vial, Vialless Merfolk. Vialless Fish is the name of the deck.
They could go for like, or reviled Merfolk. They could go for the holy trifecta of decks that people do not like, and they could have like Storm, Dredge, and then you can even have Tron, but they've really screwed the pooch, and it's all the Tron lands, which would make them cheaper because they're quite expensive nowadays.
They're getting up there. Still, you could do that. You could reprint the Tron lands.
Yeah, exactly, but there'd be no cards or anything. So you just have like one Wormcoil engine and a mere Battlesphere, right? Or
Soul of New Phyrexia.
yeah. Oh, and what was the other one? Scuttling Doom engine. 4 copies of those. Like you can beat Elspeth Sun's champion if you're playing against a metagame from 15 years ago.
Right.
And then the other alternative is Infect. They're like, here's Infect.
Goodness. How is Infect doing these days? Does it have any presence?
I've seen people. So I don't think I've been paired against it at any point recently, but I've heard or seen people talk on Twitter and Reddit about how green-white Infect is the thing.
Green-white?
I can't even recall why. I think I asked a friend this and they told me and I can't remember.
What's the white?
Can't remember. I totally knew this and didn't look it up. It's Giver of Runes. That's the reason, because you can protect stuff. So you lose blue and Blighted Agents, so you play some with a crappy like artifact like Iron Clawmere. Is that one of them? Is that the 2-mana one?
That's
like a colourless Infect creature. And then you play Giver of Runes. And Giver of Runes means that you can protect it from removal, or when you know they haven't got anything, just give them protection from whatever colour they get through and just swing through their blockers.
Yeah.
So that was green, white, Infect. And I think during Hogak it might have been because Rest in Peace is better than, blue cards that can't deal with Hogak, right?
Yeah.
But so green, white, Infect was a thing for a while. I don't know if the deck's any good now.
Are there any other budget decks in Modern that someone could see besides
Burn.
Storm? Burn is always... Burn is...
They can release a mono red burn deck, so they have to have mana base won't be expensive. and then you just put 4 Goblin Guides in there, 4 Eidolons. I mean, that's a lot of value. I know
Goblin Guides have gone right back up.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
how high?
Goblin Guides are $17 each.
As neither of us seem to know the cost of any burn cards right now, let's play a little game where I'm going to read out some burn cards to you, maybe 4 of them,
Right.
and you're going to guess the price, and then you can try and guess the full price.
Let's do it.
Okay. Eidolon of the Great Revels, because this card was expensive before it got reprinted.
But it was reprinted recently.
Yes. Yes, this is a version in front of me that's reprinted.
$8 each.
$5.71.
All right.
The Goldfish average. So that's pretty good. So take 4 of those in the event deck
Yep.
isn't unreasonable.
No.
How much do you think lava spikes are? A common.
$1 each.
This has shown me the original Kamigara printing, but $3.50. Sunbaked Canyon. This is a new
Sunbaked
edition.
Canyon?
This is the Horizon land that draws a card.
$25.
$16.
All right.
So not hugely expensive, but another proof that Modern Horizons.
And how many of that does it run?
This 5.0 list. No, sorry, this 9.1 list at MCQ. So that's pretty good. 4 copies.
Okay.
Because it's a very good way of getting through the flood, right?
Sure.
And then lastly, the last
Lastly.
card. How much do you think a Scalding Tarn's going to set you back right now?
I know what a Scalding Tarn is. It's $100.
Yeah, $100. So the full list, how much?
Full list, and so that's Boros burn.
Yeah, that's the Boros deck with the fetches and everything.
$700.
Bang on, 691.
Bang on. All
whatever.
right. Yeah.
$700.
Now, I always say this to people. If you're not playing Modern today and you want to play Modern, the smartest thing you could do is put together mono red burn.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you could put together, how much were Goblin Guides again? 17, 2, 4, 6, 8, 80. I think you could put together mono red burn for 150. Maybe even a little bit less, depending on a few little cuts.
Subs those out with some trades, and you'll cut.
It's not the best deck, but this is what you do. You spend your 150. You got mono red burn. You go down, and this is for someone who is not currently playing Modern and is interested in learning. Is Modern Curious? I'm curious, and you're Modern Curious. So you put together mono red burn. You go down and you start playing with mono red burn at events, and you learn other decks by playing against them. And you go, okay, I'm up against Wurza. What's it do? I'm up against Jund. What's it do? I'm up against Tron. Oh, I'm up against this version of Tron. Oh, I'm up against the one infect person. What does it do? What's it like? Oh, I'm up against, this. What does it do? And then you start asking yourself, which of those looks most interesting to me? And then you get to be able to set things like, what are the most expensive cards in there? And you go, okay, well, I'm really interested in Wurza. And so I got to get a playset of Urzas, right? Does it run 4? Wurza runs 4 Urza or 3?
It probably does. The card's ridiculous.
So. Okay. So it's like, okay, that's some money. Those are Urzas like $20-$30 each. And so you start saying, okay, let's look in my trade folder. And in my trade folder, I maybe have, some standard cards that are up there in price. And it's like, let's start trading those for things I could trade for an Urza or trade them for an Urza or up trade into that, and you start putting this framework. You're still going in with mono red, and then you start to have this little separate deck box, and it's got your 2 Urzas in it, and your sword and whatever foundry, and you start putting it together, and then it's like, okay, I'm on like a third of the way there, and then you start doing things like you're going to get prize. You maybe going to win in the event. You're going to go 3-1. You can go 3-1, or you go 2-2, and you get some packs there with that, and you trade those with other people, and it's this build into a sort of thing. You might even eventually sell off your then mono red for the 150 back to finish off.
No, you don't sell mono red, because what you do
you always keep it.
No. Once your modern deck's built, you then change like 12 of the cards in the mono red deck and start in Legacy. Because mono red burn. I think Burn and Legacy.
My very first.
I think it's cheaper than the modern version.
Yeah, my very first modern deck was mono red burn. My very first Legacy deck was mono red burn. That's how I learned the other decks.
So mono red burn in Legacy is better positioned than mono red burn is in modern. It's crazy how few people actually play burn considering how good the deck is in modern. In Legacy, sorry, the deck is really good, really good.
So now I have a test for you in terms of guess the prices.
Okay.
We're using MTG Goldfish paper pricing, so it might be off by, it's not an exact science, but it's giving us a general idea. So I said the person has started up with a $150 mono red list, and they want to trade into Wurza. How much do they need to put Wurza together based off of a complete MTG Goldfish tournament result achieving deck?
Oh god, I don't know how many fetch lands and things it plays off the top of my head. I'm going to say 1,300, 1,300.
Close. According to this, 1529.
Is the most expensive card of the deck's poorly fetched lands?
The most expensive card in the deck is Scalding Tarn.
There we go. Okay. Non-land wise, then, what's the most expensive card in the deck?
Mox Opal.
Of course it is. Yeah. What are they? 100, 120?
4 Mox Opals will run you $479.
And that's the scary thing about Modern, because Mox Opal, in time, because it's the card that'll get pushed the most to be broken. It could be. I don't think it is now, but it could be a bannable card in the future, especially as we get things like Emery's printed and stuff. And it's scary. The idea of dropping $470 on some cards and then getting banned.
What if I run Titan Shift? What do you think that costs?
Plays a lot of fetches, but they're not blue fetches. They tend to be a bit cheaper. I'm going to say just short of $1,000, maybe 980, something like that.
No, 541.
Oh, cheap. Okay, much cheaper.
Much cheaper, much better.
I think that might be, other than it being a combo deck, that could be a good contender for event decks as well, because, well, they put Escape Shift in standard, for example. The problem is the prime times and stuff.
Right. Mono green Tron.
So like pedestrian Tron, as I call it.
What's the top Tron list? Is
yeah, that's it.
It's just mono green.
I call it pedestrian because it's the boring one. It's doing nothing exciting, right?
There's some Ley Lines of Sanctity in the sideboard. That's white, but other than that, the only colored cards in this entire list is green.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just calling it pedestrian Tron.
I'm more just breaking that down.
Okay. I'm going to say that's 1,100.
$824.
Huh. How much are Karns now then? How much are the 7 mana Karn Liberateds?
This is running a playset of Karn Liberated. A playset is $251. So it's like $75 each. It's actually $60 each. They're that low. They've gone down. 65? What is
maybe
that?
They never got up.
All right.
Maybe
it also runs a full playset of Karn the Great Creator.
Yeah, because you want Mycosynth Lattice people have the game.
Right. And 2 Ugins.
Oh, how much is a Mycosynth Lattice these days? Because this is a card that I remember. So I had some lattices left over from
A
Commander.
lattice is $60.
Yeah, I sold my lattices to a vendor for like £10 or whatever, $10. And then Karn got printed, and I was like, oh, I've sat on these cards since like Mirrodin was a thing, and I can't believe it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's MTG Finance for you, right?
There you go. That's MTG Finance.
Lattice needs a reprint. It needs a reprint.
Or a lot of these need a reprint. But I also think that a lot of these numbers really prove to me, in all honesty, that the only real issue with Finance, honestly, are those fetch lands, because as long as there's alternatives, I don't care that Karn is $60 each, because I don't have to play Tron. And if I want to play Tron, then that's what my goal is to get. Well, it's got that expensive card. Mox Opal comes close to being that's a little nuts. But for the most part,
the counterpoint is that with fetch lands, if we look at more casual, not just modern, but more casual than that, like Commander, right?
Right.
Like fetch lands, you can just play another land. There's so many land options for Commander that fetch lands matter a bit less, right?
Right.
But if you want a Karn Liberated because you like Karn, there's not really another option, is there? Because they're too unique. Ugins, Karns, Lilianas, do you know what I mean?
I don't know. We did just fine without those in Tron for years.
What 7 mana Karn?
Tron used to be, in my day, I forget Vince is only 21.
Yeah, but he was around for the creation of Modern, sure.
In my day,
you'd play like
Tron ran Ulamog and Original Emrakul and Grove of the Burn Willows. It was red-green Tron, and that's the way we played it.
No, red-green Tron played 4 copies of Karn.
But it wasn't that expensive.
Okay, sure. My point is, the fetch lands...
that it's irreplaceable.
They're unique. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So it sucks for a new player to be like, oh, they play with Karn the Great Creator in their first sealed draft. Or whatever. They do badly because the card sucks. It's limited. And they're like, oh, you know what, Dad? Or their brother or their friend. Karn's cool. He's a big robot dude, right? I want to play with Karn Liberated in Commander. And they're like, well, do you have $70? They're like, sorry, how much? And then it's depressing. People can't play with these play pieces. So, but when you talk about Modern, the fetch lands are just as important.
Do you have $70? Well, you need that 4 times.
Well, not for Commander, but
do you have $70? You need it 4 times.
And they're like, I'll be right back. And they disappear for 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And they come back. I've got my $70. Like, no, I meant each. And they're like, oh, here's your one. They slide a singular Karn across. And I'll throw in 3 mid outfits because it's like $1 rare. There you go. They're like, thanks, buddy.
I did a video once where I went through, it's out of date. It was a couple of years ago, I think. But I took all the the top 6 modern decks on Goldfish, and I said, let's just pull out mana bases. All of it. Not just fetch lands, but the complete mana base.
Yep.
And while some of them still were pretty expensive, almost all of them dropped by more than 50%. Some of them dropped, and some of them dropped by like 70, 80%.
Well, on the reprints, the fetch lands? Or
Yeah, if you take it, well, it was, but it was the mana base. Take out the mana base, and some of these modern decks were some of them.
Oh, sorry, when you move the mana base, the deck gets incredibly cheaper. Sorry,
Yes,
I'm with
yeah,
you. I'm
yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I'm with you.
So take out the mana base, and the deck value drops so much on some of these decks. Some of them stayed up there, but I was going through I think the top 6. I'd have to go look at the video again, but it was so dramatic, and that's part of why my issue with reprints focuses on things like fetch lands. If fetch lands got reprinted and were made very affordable across the board tomorrow, I wouldn't suddenly necessarily be going on about, all right, let's look at Ugin, let's look at Karn. I can see that, but I would be a little more chill about it, where it's like, okay, that's fine, It's just that we needed those, and then it's like those fetch lands are in all those modern decks. In all honesty, at the end of the day, where do you think Modern's headed? Or is this going to last? Do you think Modern is fading in popularity? Do you think people have bad memories of broken times in the format, or just these outrageously expensive cards? Or do all we need is just reprint fetch lands in Standard once, and everyone's going to be interested in Modern again?
If you reprint cards into Standard especially, I think the format's going to be in a great place.
Right.
People get excited when the format gets sorted out and it's in a good place. This happens with Legacy a little bit as well. People publicly tweet out and talk on Reddit about how great the format is. And that's how it feels right now. People are excited to play the format again because all these decks are showing up that they love. People have been sad they couldn't play their Gen deck for the last God knows how long, because it's been bad against all the combo decks, then it's bad against Arclight Phoenix, and I think it was okay about Phoenix, and it's bad against Hogak. So people are excited to play their pet deck again. And that's what you get with these older formats. People are excited to play their pet decks again.
Right.
And then there's people who want to play those decks. That's the other category of person, right? There's people who want to play their pet decks, who are excited to play Modern and play their pet decks. And the other category is people who really want to play those Eternal formats, would like to play those Eternal formats, but they're just completely priced out.
Right.
Or they're not priced out, but they're just they're worried. I guess the other problem their Modern has an image problem, right? Because things get banned all the time. So do you want to go and drop $800 to $1,500 on a deck and then get banned out?
No, I don't.
So I think that's perhaps where it is in terms of inviting new players in, but I think the players that play it already are pretty happy that things have kind of evened out.
Right.
And then we just need to wait for the next set to push some dodgy, high-powered stuff on us and then go from there.
Well, until the next set.
Yeah. I think Eldraine's going to be okay, but yeah, we'll see what Theros and Zendika has to bring.